All right, celebrating Yuletide in the broom closet. 3 ways to embrace your pagan faith. That is the theme for today. And I thought it would be pretty fitting for, of course, this time of year, but also in general. Any time that you are coming up against maybe a Sabbath, a holiday in your given pagan faith that you, for whatever reason, may feel like you can't celebrate. And I referenced this a little bit in my last video about crafting sacred space, but it's also relevant here specifically to the holidays. It's this idea that if we are living in a space which is not conducive to our pagan practice or our witchy practice, maybe it's relatives who are not understanding, maybe it's roommates who are not so open, whatever it is, if we are in this space, it's very easy to get sad and depressed and think, I can't do my holiday at this time of year. But I want to tell you this is not true. You can celebrate your holiday in your way as well. I didn't introduce myself, did I? I'm Witch Hazel. Hello, merry meet, or welcome back, everyone. I try to lend my 2 bits about witchy practice, pagan practice, as well as the spiritual side of things. So there's the tangible side and the spiritual side. And in this channel, in these videos, I'm trying to meld the 2 because I have noticed that there is sometimes a disconnect. Going back to our idea of Yuletide. I know in the past when I was in a coven and when I was more active with other pagan friends, this would come up every Sabbath, every holiday season, especially around Christmas time, because so many witches had family members that they would traditionally go to for the holiday, but who were not at all open to witchcraft, and so it had to be a silent thing, right? And this was hard on them. I thought I would give 3 options for you to try and change your thinking a little bit on that and see if it helps to celebrate in the way that you would like to. To start out with, first we're going to talk about decor. So I referenced this a little bit in the video about spiritual lifestyle, right? Bringing in nature into your home. But this also goes very nicely with the video on comparing pagan and Christian lore at Christmas time. Because remember, if you've seen that video, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you go watch it. But if you've seen it, then you will remember we talked about all of the, or many of the best known Christian traditions at Christmas time come from pagan roots. Many people know this already, but for some reason we tend to forget it at Christmas time and we just think that we can't celebrate. No, my friend. You have all the same symbolism as the Christians do, and there is no reason to feel as though you're left out. You may have to be a little subtle about it, a little bit silent about it, but there's no reason you can't see a beautifully decorated Christmas tree and think to yourself, you know what? I can enjoy that too. That has meaning for me too. That tree represents life in death, life in winter. That tree represents nature and my nature gods and goddesses. There's no reason you can't think that for looking at the tree. So it is decked out in Christian regalia. It doesn't change the tree. Other things like wreaths and just the circle symbolism alone on a wreath can be very useful. Candles. We use candles all the time as witches, right? Well, they have meaning for us. They have meaning for the Christians. And there's no reason we can't mutually assign meaning to the candle that we are admiring, right? So think about it that way. Whatever the decor is, even if, so here's an extreme option, even if the decor is something like the nativity scene, remember that, I don't think I got into this, but in A Witch's Bible, the Farrars point out that in their viewpoint, Jesus takes on the role of the former sun god. He is the Son of God, right? He's the sun god. You can relate him to the mythology of paganism. Mary as well. Is there a better example of the mother goddess aspect? No. So it doesn't matter that these little figurines have Christian names to them. If you look at them and see what they represent, then there's no reason you can't enjoy them if you are not of the same religious faith as other people in the room, right? That's all I'm getting at, is we don't need to be sticklers for decor. All of it, every bit of it, it's all representation of an idea. And your ideas are your own. They're in your head. You get to choose them. You don't have to follow the ideas of others, even though you're surrounded by them on this holiday. And it's perfectly fine to do that. You don't have to openly negate what someone else is saying or what someone else believes. That's just going to start, I'm thinking of Family Feud stuff, you know, the holiday Family Feud stuff. No, we don't want to do that. So in your head, in your thoughts, silently understand what representations you are celebrating at this time of year. It's all about that. It's not about the specific details. It's about what does it represent. Next, we have the idea of stories. This is, and all three of these are going to be essentially the same idea, but let's go back to the nativity, right? That's the classic story at Christmas time. Well, we can relate the nativity story, its themes, this idea of rebirth, this idea of something new at this dark time of year, to pagan traditions as well. Again, in A Witch's Bible, the section on Yule, they talk about things like the Horus and Osiris story of Egyptian mythology. We know about the death of Balder, right, in the Norse tradition and going to the underworld. We know about the Holly King and the Oak King, right? This is the time of year that they battle it out and roles reverse. As long as we are not taking these traditional stories for complete historical fact, meaning take it with a grain of salt, understand that all of these stories, they are stories. They are representations of ideas and themes. And in that point of view, in that light, if we look at these things in that way, we can enjoy them no matter what religion we follow, because it's the theme that's important. It's not the names, it's not the specific religious connotations, it's the theme. Additionally, this is where we get into fun stories too. What about I love doing themed reading for holidays. Like for Halloween, every third year, my local ballet puts on a great version of Dracula. So in preparation for that, I'm always excited I want to read Dracula. I need to read Dracula. So think of it that way. You're going into Yuletide season, and what do we have? We have winter time. We have the beauty of the snow and the ice, but also this kind of sense of danger. What about the Snow Queen? Isn't that a great story? And the Snow Queen has so many pagan connections that you can make. I will get into that in another video. Possibly the next one, not sure. But something like that, or other children's stories that take place in snowy places. I loved Jack London as a child. I read all of Jack London's books, The Call of the Wild, White Fang, all of those. And they take place in Alaska, in the snow and the cold and the threat of death at every corner. Again, make it fun and realize that it doesn't matter what names we're putting on stuff. Focus on the theme. Focus on the elemental part of this time of year, and you will find great ways to enjoy. All right, so that's decor, that's stories. My last one is, become a kitchen witch. This is the best time of year to do it. So if you're going to be stuck in the kitchen anyway, cooking for a bunch of people that won't help you clean and won't appreciate you anyway, then don't you think you should at least add a little witchy pizzazz to the undertaking? And this can be in any way. I know baking is a huge thing for the holidays. My family didn't bake so much, but when I went to visit my grandmother in Austria, she would bake up a storm. She made all sorts of little cookies. They were the best thing ever. I loved her cookies. Or there's the whatever you do as the traditional meal, if it's a goose, a turkey, a ham, lamb, whatever. All of these things can be infused with spell work and other kind of witchy ritual. Why? Because what do we use when we cook and when we bake? Spices, herbs, all of these have such a rich history of being used, especially, by witches, but being used in every faith for their healing properties. Their magical properties. Make a game of it. As you take the herbs out of the cabinet, think, this is such and such herb. This is ruled by the planet, what have you. This herb has to do with the blood circulation or whatever. You can practice your associations this way in the kitchen. And you can tailor, if there's wiggle room in your recipe, you can tailor it to add in the spices and ingredients that you want to for certain things. Like, I'm adding this in to create warmth in my family this season, that we all are thinking of each other and create more of a loving warmth, okay? Or I'm adding this in to make sure that my family is protected and in good health during this time of year. You can get very creative with it. Speaking of, I will also have a video for you specifically on holiday tea. So make sure you are subscribed if you're not already, so that you don't miss any of that. These are these 3 ways that I thought of which might help to make the holiday season more enthusiastic for you if you do feel like you are in the broom closet for Yuletide, for Christmas time. And if it gets you down, then remember, decor, kitchen, what was my third thing? Stories. Those 3 things, if you remember it's all about the theme, then you can create a really wonderful time no matter who you're surrounded by. I hope you enjoyed these few little tips and tricks, and I will see you again soon in the next video. So until then, everyone, blessed be.